I think I thrive more off of realizing that I can accomplish something that I thought was not going to be possible.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel and welcome to Coffee with Zach. I hope you guys are all having a great day because you're in for a real treat. Today's guest is Curtis Brawley, a Nashville recording artist, and we talked a lot about music, the entertainment industry, a little bit about mental health and how all of that was impacted with the shutdown. We also talked about what it's like to be a private pilot. So if you like all that, stay tuned. Before we get started, I think some shout outs are in order. First of all, thank you so much to Curtis for making time in your schedule to come on the show and do this. It was a really fun conversation and I enjoyed it. So thank you so much. Also, thank you to Caitlin for setting this whole thing up. We couldn't have done it without you. So again, thank you. As always, make sure you check out the links in the description. That's where you're gonna find everything you could possibly need, including show notes for today's episode, as well as our social medias. Let's get started.
Hey, Zach.
How are you?
Good.
Nice to finally meet you.
I
So
know.
sorry I couldn't be in person.
I know, it seems to be the way it works these days, right?
I know the stars and the schedules just did not align, but
No.
seems to be the going trend of these Zoom interviews. So I think it'll work out just fine.
I'm ready for Zoom to fade away so we can get back
Yeah.
to some personal interaction.
Well, you know, with the cameras and everything, it does, give a little bit of a higher production value. But I guess, are you all set? You ready to get started?
I'm ready to rock and roll.
Rock and roll it is. All right, I think we're good to go. So I guess the first question I'll start off with was, how was your quarantine? We'll start off with that. I think that'll
Quarantine was really long.
really long.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure for most people. And honestly, mentally exhausting. I feel like, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I went on this roller coaster of emotions through that. Like when it first went into quarantine, I was like, oh, well, this is kind of cool. We get a couple of weeks to just sit back, relax, and spend quality time with each other and just do things around the house that you normally don't get the time to do. And then fast forward, we're 2 months into it. I was like, okay, this is getting a little long.
For sure.
And I had all of these music things lined up to start rolling out that were supposed to start in April. And, quarantine basically started in March. So we kind of kept postponing things for a couple of months, and then 2 months would go by and they would get postponed again. So I would probably say about 4 or 5 months into it, I started getting really depressed because
Yeah.
I started questioning, is this ever going to end? Is my music career finished at this point? Because, in this day and age, if you don't stay in front of people on a regular basis, people forget about you. Like
Absolutely. Yeah.
attention span is so short. So I thought by the time this is over, it'll be like starting all over again to get back in the industry and get to the level I had already worked my butt off to try and get to. So I was really worried that everything was coming to an end. And one night I was sitting on the couch and I just broke down in tears. And my husband said, "What is wrong with you?" Because it just kind of came out of nowhere. And I said, "I just realized that if I don't have music, I have no idea who I am. Like, if I don't have that, what do I do?" I was clueless of what my future was going to look like. And I was like a grieving process, So, and then that lasted for a few weeks. And then I kind of started realizing, you know what, I need to refocus my mind and start utilizing all this time I have to get creative and start thinking about what I'm going to do when this is over.
Yeah, I mean, it really is like a grieving process. When something gets taken away from you like that, it's part of you. It's part of what you do. It's who you are.
Yeah.
Obviously correct me if I'm wrong. Music's not your entire identity, but it's a huge part of you, right?
Yeah, it definitely is a huge part of it. And it's a big outlet for me to express my own emotions or anything I'm dealing with. That's what I, for years, have used as my outlet.
Yeah.
And then it's a big part of my social interaction with people, getting on stage and being in front of all those people and getting that energy back from them is, quite honestly, I say all the time, that energy you get from an audience for a performer is like a drug.
It is.
And
I mean,
when
it's
it's
fun.
just stripped away from you, it's like going through withdrawals, is what I would imagine to go through withdrawals.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine what it was like for everybody else in the entertainment industry, not just music, performers of all types, just to have that stripped out from under them.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people in entertainment, and they have very similar stories to mine of the emotional roller coaster that they went through.
Yeah, so we're halfway through quarantine. We got through all of that, and we're starting to see this light at the end of the tunnel. I'm talking like maybe 4 or 5 months ago.
Mhm.
What was going through your mind then?
That's when I basically said, I've got to kick into high gear and start
Mm.
creating the plan. So that way, when whoever opens the doors and says, all right, you're free to go about your normal life, I wanted to be able to just hit the ground running.
Yeah.
So that's when I really started just kind of making a list of things that I needed to get done before quarantine ended. And I started reaching out to producers that I had worked with and songwriters that I had worked with and said, let's start getting together. Let's do Zoom co-writes. And let's get ready to get in the studio. And that's what we did. I spent the next 5 or 6 months writing, going through songs that were pitched to me until we found, a list of things that I wanted to work on. And then I got in the studio and I just started recording new things. And then working with, who's the team going to be to help me launch these things when we're able to. And that's what I spent that time doing. That way, when the doors open, I was ready to roll.
Yeah, so
It
you really
helped me a lot mentally because then I got busy again and I felt like I was working again instead of just sitting around twiddling my thumbs.
got so you got proactive about it. As
Yeah,
soon as you saw that light at the end of the tunnel, you started running.
right.
Awesome.
And I wish I had done that months prior to that. I was just kind of clueless of what to do. I was kind of lost in my own mind of
Well,
what
I mean,
appropriate thing to do next.
yeah, weren't we all though? I mean, hindsight's 2020, but nobody knew what this was going to turn into. So
Right.
you can only
Yeah,
do
we all thought we were gonna lock ourselves in the house for a couple of weeks and it was gonna be over.
2 weeks and it's over. Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
think that's from what I've heard from a lot of people. Everybody just started getting anxious and anxious when things kept getting drawn out longer and longer and longer. That started to scare a lot of people because what they thought was going to be 2 weeks without their favorite, whatever it may be, turned into 2 months, a year, you know.
Right. I
So,
know it's fine. I tell people a lot that, usually like I consider touring season kind of comes to an end by the end of October, early November.
mm,
Then everybody kind of gets that November, December break where they're not really doing much. It's
yeah,
time off.
yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
By the time touring season comes to an end, I can't wait to just be at home and do nothing. But then by January, I'm like, okay, I got to get back to work. I can't just sit at home like this. So I was already anxiously ready to get back to work. And then it all stopped again. I was like, I will appreciate working so much more now.
yeah.
I was always looking forward to the time off. Now I think I'll be looking forward to going back to work.
What's that phrase they say the grass is always greener on the other side, right?
Yeah.
When you can't do something you
You
want.
want to do it even more.
Yeah. Oh,
It's like when you tell the kid no.
yeah.
Well, now they're really going to do it.
hmm So we've got our quarantine talk out of the way. Um, let's dive into a little bit more music background. Um, what was your very first music experience that you can remember?
Singing a solo in our church when I was 5 years old. That was the first experience. And I remember for months leading up to that, my mom was always in the choir.
hmm
So I'd always sit, out in the auditorium and watching her sing. And then someone from the choir every service would get up and do a solo. So when we leave church on Sundays, I'm like telling my mom, I want to do a solo. When are they going to let me sing a solo? And she's like, yeah, that's, for people in the choir, they're the ones who do the solo. You're a little young for that. And I just kind of kept on her and kept on her about it. And then she finally talked to the choir director, and she's like, my son will not leave me alone. He wants to sing one Sunday at church. And so he's like, sure, why not? And I got up and sang, and everybody was like, oh my God, this 5-year-old kid can actually sing. It's not just this cuteness part of it.
Right.
He actually can sing. And from that point is when my mom kind of started. I didn't know at that time at all that that's what I wanted to do for a career. I just knew I liked singing and being in front of people.
Yeah.
But my mom started kind of supporting that. And if I locked myself in my room at home and sing songs all day, she let me do that. And I look back on that now, knowing that was her letting me like find my niche and my talent, and supporting what the potential might be if that's something I wanted to do when I got older.
Yeah. So if you could tell that 5-year-old Curtis one thing right now, what would you say to him?
Run.
Run. I like it.
I tell people a lot that the dream of being in the music industry, especially like as an artist, is almost a curse, because you want it so bad and you love it so much, but it is so difficult, and it's filled with so much disappointment over and over and over again, that most people, if you're constantly getting disappointment, like say in a relationship, if it's constant disappointment, they're like, I'm done, I'm out of this relationship. I get to that point sometimes in music where I'm like, okay, I'm done, I can't take any more disappointment. But within a week, I'm like, it draws me back in every single time. I cannot walk away from it. I love it too much that all of the heartache and BS sometimes that comes along with it, it's all worth it when you get to do the part you love to do, which is performing and entertaining. But I don't know, realistically, what I would tell a 5-year-old, don't lose sight of who you are, and be persistent about what you want to do, and don't let other people tell you that you can't. Because probably my first half of my life was people telling me what I should do or what I'm not able to do, and me believing that instead of trusting my gut. My gut always told me what I should be doing, and I would do it, and then someone tell me, no, you shouldn't do it that way. Then I'm like, oh, okay. Well, then I'd rearrange everything, and then I'd find myself miserable or unhappy because I wasn't doing what I really wanted to be doing.
Yeah. At what point did you learn to trust your gut? Or was it something you had to learn, or did somebody like show you how to trust your gut, or how did that come
Probably
about?
a mixture of the two. I mean, I had a couple of people around me, one of them being my mom, who used to tell me all the time when I would come to her and say, here's this scenario that I have to make a decision on. And she would always say, well, what does your gut tell you to do? Or what is your heart telling you to do? And when I would tell her, she would say, well, then that's what you need to do. But it took me a long time to start exercising that.
Yeah.
And when I finally started testing that theory and realizing, oh, that actually paid off, even though all these people over here told me not to do it that way, what I thought was the appropriate thing to do, I did that, and it paid off. And it took years of really doing that before it kind of just like locked into my head and said, yep, that's the way I've got to do it. And that was probably in the last 6 or 7 years when I really realized that's the way to do it, and that's the way to go.
Going back to the disappointment, do you think you'd like thrive off the disappointment too?
Man, I've never thought of it that way. I hope not. I think I thrive more off of realizing that I can accomplish something that I thought was not going to be possible. So, if you get disappointed, you try to in this business, in anybody's career or business, there's always these milestones that they want to hit. And when you think you're about to hit a milestone and you don't, that's when the disappointment happens. And then once you finally do hit the milestone, then that I think is what I thrive on. They're like, oh, yes, I accomplished it. I knew I could. And even though I had these setbacks that prevented me from doing it on the timeline that I thought I should be doing it, I still accomplished it. And that's one of the other big things that I've realized, that the timeline isn't the timeline we want it to be. It's like, I feel like the universe has already set a timeline for when things are supposed to happen for you. And the timing is when it's the right time. So even though I may have hit that milestone when I wanted to hit it, there's probably a reason I didn't, that, you look back on later and go, oh, well, I had a bunch of this personal stuff that happened right after that that would have totally messed everything up had I hit the milestone then. So I have to realize that and remind myself of that a lot of times is, you just let things kind of happen as they're supposed to happen and roll with the punches.
Yeah, and I think some of those setbacks are almost those little signs that the universe, as you put it, is telling you to kind of just sit back, take a breather, and let those personal things or whatever's going on take over for a second.
And a lot of times there's good positive things that come out of stepping back and waiting. And I mean, it's what the pandemic did for me. It was a total reset for me to really step back and take that view from 30,000 feet above and look at everything and have time to really think about it and analyze it and decide how to move forward, instead of always, you're running at 150 miles an hour constantly making real quick decisions and you never really have time to sit and think about them.
Yeah. For me personally, I'm one of those people who's always like, go, 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 just constantly knocking stuff out. And I've always struggled with the whole concept of relaxing. So what did I have to learn to do during this whole pandemic?
I know. Yeah, I know. That's difficult for people like us. It's being locked in the house and not being able to get up and just go all day until you crash at the end of the night.
Yeah.
And you're just sitting around going, okay, these four walls are going to drive me insane if something doesn't change then. But it taught us to refocus our energy in different ways than we weren't used to doing before.
Yeah. I think that's important though, learning how to rechannel energy, whether it's in your career or personal life, whatever, in different ways.
Yeah.
Good skill. So being able to have that and being able to be adaptable and everything that pandemic forced everybody to be.
Yeah. It's a great skill to have, because even without the pandemic, life throws things at you all the time that you aren't expecting. So you've got to learn to kind of mold and conform to things that are happening around you and focus your energy in a way that's not negative,
Yeah, negative energy is not good.
Yeah, it'll destroy you.
Negative.
And it goes around.
See, so we talked about like the early music background. We'll get to where you are today, of course.
Sure.
What about that middle period? So how did you get from 5-year-old Curtis to where you are today?
Well, I had one of those aha moments in the 8th grade that really put me on the trajectory of pursuing entertainment as a career. And starting in about 4th grade, we moved from one part of town to another, and I started at a new elementary school.
Oh, okay.
From that moment, I started getting picked on a lot, like bullied. Walking home from school in the afternoons, I would get beat up, and I ended up having to find trails through the woods to get myself home, because all the normal sidewalk areas I would always get hurt
Yeah.
or beat up along on the way home. And that kind of continued on a daily basis all the way through. I mean, it went on all the way through high school, but elementary, middle school, it got much worse. And I finally got to the point where my parents realized something is really wrong. He's,
Mm.
never happy. He's never wants to go to school, and ended up going to see a counselor. Like, it was just this thing of feeling like I never could connect with anyone. I never could fit in. Everything I said was not right. However I dressed was wrong. Like, you just feel like nothing I do is right. Why am I even here? The feeling I was experiencing.
Mhm.
Well, my drama teacher in 8th grade, she organized an annual talent show for the kids. And she kept trying. She knew that I could sing and that I loved to sing, and she kept trying to get me to be in the talent show. And I was like, no way in hell am I getting up in front of all of these peers, like they'll be throwing stuff at me. But she was very persistent, and she finally talked me into doing it. And at the end of the song, every kid in the auditorium stood up and were like clapping and yelling for me. And it was my aha moment that this is how I connect with people. Like, everything that I
Yeah.
was doing outside
Mhm.
of that was not working, but this actually worked. And it was right then I was like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, because this feeling that I'm getting from them, I love that, and I want to have
Yeah.
that always.
Do you think that was the first time you had that thrill from an audience? Yeah, you mentioned it earlier, but
For sure. The
that was
very
the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because in church, you finish a song at church and they're like, you don't get that roar of a
Yeah.
people screaming
Not
and
the
clapping.
same, but
So
that's
yeah,
cool.
it
That's
was, it
awesome.
was
Yeah.
that, and I didn't realize then that that would become like an addicting thing that I would
Mhm.
want to feel all the time. I just knew that I liked it, and I need to focus on that and do it again. And that's where I set my mind. I'm going to start figuring out, how do I do this as a career.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was your, well, you said it was your aha moment, but that was kind of like that pivotal moment where you realized, that's what you're going to do for your career too,
Yeah,
basically. So
yeah.
once you figured out that was going to be your career move, how did you start? Because obviously in the music industry, it's all networking and everything. I'm
Yeah.
sure there's a lot of that, right? How
Oh
did
yeah.
you start planning your career?
Well, I found a bunch of these like small town country music jamborees that did
Yeah.
live shows on Fridays and Saturday nights. And I started going and auditioning at these places and learning how to perform with a live band, because I had never done that before. And I got to the point where all the way through high school, I was going and performing at jamborees every Saturday night, every single Saturday night. Unless I was super sick, I never missed a Saturday. While all of the other high school kids were at parties and, all with their friends, I was going to sing in a jamboree to an audience typically that was 55 and up. That was the people I was hanging out with a lot.
Hmm.
But I loved it, and I didn't miss not being with friends or being at the party, the big party for the
Yeah.
weekend.
You.
And so that's how it started. And then there was a lady at one of the jamborees. Her name was Carol, who just kind of took me under her wing, and she believed in me so much. She used to tell me all the time, I know I'm going to see you at the CMA Awards one day. And she was a single lady, an elderly lady, and she would fly me to Nashville and take me to the CMA Awards so I could see the awards show. And she knew how excited I would get, and it would like fuel me to want to be there myself as an artist one day. And then she took me to like a real small studio and let me record a couple little demos. And that just encouragement from someone that I wasn't related to really
Yeah.
motivated me. You know, it made me believe in myself. And then from that point, I realized in those few little trips to Nashville that a lot of those opportunities that I needed were there. So I would need to go there and meet people. And so as soon as I graduated high school, I packed up and I moved to Nashville. And my mom about freaked out because I was 18. I literally just got out of high school. And I was like, see ya, I'm going to Nashville. And she's, you know, of course, as a mom, she's going, I don't think you realize what you're getting yourself into. So I moved there and I was there about 6 months and I left and went back home with my tail tucked between my legs because that's when I really realized just how difficult it was and how many talented people there were in Nashville
Yeah.
all trying to accomplish the same thing.
There's there's definitely a lot. What's what's the saying? There's isn't there like a saying in Nashville, like where everybody's like I forget the saying. Something has to do with like bars and singers. I can't remember it.
I'm not sure.
So somebody at one of the bars joked about it the last time I was there. I didn't get the joke at the time, but
Yeah.
it makes sense.
Times, you know, the saying about there's a lot of fish in the sea. Well, as an artist moving to Nashville, you become a very small fish in the ocean.
Yeah.
This is just, you suddenly are lost in this mix of so many people that are just as talented, if not way more talented than you are. You know, so then you get overwhelmed. And I realized, you know, that there's a good balance between putting yourself as that little fish in the ocean here and there, but occasionally you got to remove yourself and put yourself back in the pond. So you're only with a few people, a few other fish
Yeah.
who you align with because you'll get so overwhelmed and you find yourself constantly watching what everyone else is doing. Well, what's she doing? She just had an exclusive on this big outlet. How did she do that? And what is she doing? Well, let me go do what she just did to try and accomplish that. And
Yeah.
or then you see someone else who, oh, they just got to play at the Opry. I've been in this town much longer than they have. Why are they getting to play at the Opry? So you're so focused on what everyone else is doing that you stop focusing on what you should be doing.
Yeah.
So I learned I had to remove myself from that every once in a while and just focus on my game and not worry about what everybody else is doing. And that brings you back to maybe the timing was right for them right then. That's why they're
Yeah.
playing.
The
It
whole
was their
timeline thing.
time. It's just not my
Yeah.
time yet.
Right. So, um, yeah, I like that you brought it back to the timeline thing. Yeah. Full circle. Um, so that sounded kind of like you know, they say not to compare yourself to other people, but um, do you also think it is healthy to compare yourself in moderation
I think it's
to kind of see where you
healthy.
stand?
I think it's healthy to have some healthy
Okay.
competition with other people. I wouldn't really compare yourself because that's when you start losing sight of your own identity because you're trying to mold yourself into
Mhm.
what someone else is. But I definitely think it's good to have some competition in you with other people. And I still do that. If I know several independent artists that I feel like we're all in the same playing field, and I'll still watch what they're doing and see what their
Yeah.
accomplishments are and want to try and hit that too so that I'm not left behind, you know.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. It helps fuel the fire.
Feel the fire. It's I don't know. A lot of people have differing opinions on that, so I just wanted your take on it. Um, a lot of people say they don't think it's healthy to compare yourself to other people, but I like that you used competition instead of compare because they are two different things. You
They
can
are.
have competition without necessarily comparing yourself to other people. So, I
I
mean,
think it's okay too to watch if you find qualities that you like in other people, you can kind of study that and what they're doing
yeah,
and take from that and make it your own. I mean, I did a lot of that when I was kind of molding myself as an entertainer. I would watch
yeah,
Reba perform on stage and I'd watch Garth perform on stage and I would watch their videos over and over and over and study all the things that they were doing that made them a great entertainer or that made them connect to an audience member. And I would try and emulate that until I could figure out how to make that my own.
Yeah,
So, that's kind of comparing. You're watching what someone's doing and you're learning from what they're doing, but you're not trying to make yourself like them.
yeah, that's the key difference, learning from what they're doing and applying it to your own identity, you know?
Right.
So that's, yeah, it's comparing yourself to them, but in an educational way, if that makes sense, I guess. So not quite the same, but
There's a fine line of
there is though, yeah.
how far you can go with that. That's a healthy way of doing it.
Yeah. I mean, you can emulate until you become an impersonator, then you're
Right, yeah.
you don't want to be an impersonator, but
Right. You still need your own identity.
yeah, everybody has their influences though. I feel like every what is it they say? Every work of art that's been created came from something else that somebody saw, right?
Yeah.
Like, isn't there a theory out there that says like no art is original? Something
Yes, I've
like
heard that the no art is original because everybody at some point has been influenced by something else they've seen.
Yeah.
And they've taken that and kind of molded it into their own thing or added onto it.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of art, like entertainment arts in general, not like physical art specifically, but it's always changing.
Yeah, it's always evolving.
It's
I say that, or I think this a lot when I hear people complain about country music is not country music anymore. Well, if you listen to country music in the 50s, it didn't sound like country music in the 70s either. And then country music in the 90s didn't sound like country music in the 70s. So today's music's not going to sound like country music in the 90s. It's always evolving.
Yeah.
It may not be what you are used to hearing as the genre country music, but there's always a new generation. And just like you just said, art is constantly changing and evolving, and it should. I mean, if we just had the same thing forever, you'd burn out. It would get boring after a while.
Yeah. Nobody would sell any more tickets because we've seen it all already.
Exactly.
We've heard it all, It would be boring. Life would be very dull.
Yep.
Let's see. So we talked about the journey kind of to where you are today. So let's dive into what you're doing, what you've got upcoming. You just got a bus, I saw on Facebook. Is that correct?
I did.
Let's clear the elephant in the room. Is a bus fun?
It is a lot of fun, and
I just thought that was cool, so I had to mention it. But
I didn't realize. Well, dreaming about being in this business, I always think it's going to be so cool the day that you get to go on tour in a tour bus. But you never realize you're really sharing 350 square feet with 12 people.
Right.
Like, that's not so fun. Like, you don't have any personal space. You're all crammed in together, and you may be tidy, and the person next to you is not tidy at all, and their crap's everywhere. And
yeah,
it takes some getting used to. But as I mentioned before, there's so much not fun stuff that you have to do. But getting on stage and performing for that hour and a half makes up for all of that.
Definitely.
Thank goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't see. Have you named the bus yet?
We have not officially named it yet, but the last time I looked, so we're letting fans vote on the names, and last time I looked, Betty White was in the lead.
I bet by the time this is up, it'll be named.
It will have a name. Yeah, probably so. And if it becomes Betty White, I hope to get an autographed picture of Betty White to hang inside the bus.
That would be perfect. Well, that's fun.
That is part of my, how some people have a dream board? They'll put things on that they want to accomplish. And,
for sure.
And the old saying, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
That's basically what I've done with the bus. I have a lot of things that we are working on that if they all come together correctly, it will put us on tour next year.
Mhm.
And buying the bus was part of that. I'm going to go ahead and buy it because now that I have it, I've got to make this work.
Now you
So
gotta plan
it's like
a
me betting on myself, basically.
betting on yourself with the bus, but
Right.
a
Well,
bus
I
bet.
have it. Now I have to work hard to make this all come together because I've already invested in the bus.
I feel like that's what a lot of creators and entertainers and people that don't necessarily work your traditional 9 to 5 do, though. People are always betting on themselves that they're going to outdo themselves. They're going to accomplish the things on the dream board,
Yeah.
just like you just said.
Yeah. They take some risks.
Yeah. Well, in the industries that we're talking about, you have to.
Yeah.
You don't get anywhere if you don't
Like
take
in
the
the lottery every day.
risk.
Like,
It
right.
really is.
You 10 pick 10s and let's see if tomorrow my number gets
Yeah.
called.
So I was looking on the YouTube and I happened to see like a behind the scenes video of shooting a music video. That looked fun. You want to
Yeah.
talk about that for a little bit?
Well, do you know which one it was by chance? Or
It was somewhere where like you guys closed off a whole. I have the YouTube page pulled up. I can figure it out. One second.
I always like to shoot behind the scenes of most of the videos that we make because
Oh,
people don't realize what all goes into doing that.
oh no, not at all.
And to
You know, they see the final
document
product
it.
and they think that was it, and it was just they filmed
Right.
it. There it is. But no, there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah. They don't realize I had to sing that song 50 times in front of the camera at all these different angles just to get that 2.5 minute video.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, it was for one day.
Okay. I was thinking it might be
Oh,
the
I
one.
guess. Yeah, I guess it was 2019. It looks like when the
Yeah.
video was up. I
Um,
watched it more recently.
that one was a lot of fun, and that one challenged me more than I've been challenged in making a music video before. I set out with that whole song to share a message that had been like brewing inside me for a while. And it's a song basically about all the wishes that I have to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
And I had this idea of doing something completely different than I had done before that was not really even in the country music genre. I just wanted to show a different side to me. And that's what I did with this song. And part of that was me meeting with a choreographer every week for a couple of months, learning how to dance to this choreography they had put together for the music video. And the first couple of times that I went, I left the training thinking, never going to get this. And I thought, I've got rhythm, I can dance, this won't be so hard.
Right.
And he started showing me this stuff in about 20% of the tempo that it was going to be shot, and doing it really slow, I couldn't even get the hang of it. And I thought, I'm never going to get this, especially when we put it to real tempo. But I just kept at it, and persistence, paid off again. Like, I worked with him for about 3 months, and then one day you just wake up and you're like, oh, this is not so hard anymore. Figured it out. But it was a lot of fun. In fact, one of the dancers was graduating from high school the day that we were shooting the big dance scene on the streets.
That's cool.
And when I found out about that, I told her, I said, look, you cannot miss your high school graduation. So if you need to bail or we need to reschedule this shoot so you can go to your high school graduation, then let's do that. And she was like, no, I would rather be dancing than be at my high school graduation. Like, are you sure? And she's like, yes, this is what I want to do. That's because that's her career. That's her dream, is to be a dancer. She's like, I don't care about the graduation. Yeah.
I feel that, yeah.
So at the end of the night when we were wrapping, her mom brought her graduation gown and we played the typical graduation music that you hear when they're walking in. And we had our own little graduation for her that night.
That's awesome.
It was fun.
That is amazing. What was her family's reaction to that?
Oh, they loved it. They're always like, I can't believe you did that. You went above and beyond to make it special. But for me, it was like a kind of a no-brainer. I was like, I didn't really feel like I was doing anything special or going out of my way. It was just like, that's an important milestone. It needs to be acknowledged.
Oh yeah.
And she went out of her way for me to be here for this music video shoot and not go to her high school graduation. Not many people would do that. So they all videoed it, and everybody was posting about it on social media, and I still talk to her to this day. In fact, I talked to her yesterday, and she's wanting to audition to be a dancer in something that we're working on for next year.
Oh.
So we keep in touch, and she's in Vegas now, and she's she's in shows all the time, working in Vegas. So it paid off.
Seems like it worked out. Good for her. That's awesome.
Yeah. Her name is Gabrielle.
So with One Day, I remember listening to it, and it was different than what I was expecting. Granted, I don't know what I was expecting because obviously I hadn't heard it before, but it was just different. So was that something you were going for?
It was. I wanted to. Part of it was, I felt like for years there was this side of me that I never could talk about or expose to people. So I wanted to do the same thing with music. I wanted to have a song that I would put out that was completely different than what people were used to seeing me do or hearing me do, both through what they hear and through the visual of the music video, and wrap this whole story into that as well, of talking about something that they had never heard me talk about. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of almost like an alter ego kind of thing, but really not an alter ego. It was really me, but may appear like an alter ego to other people because they weren't used to that.
Exactly. Is that something you're gonna continue to do moving forward, or haven't decided yet? Or
well, I mean, we have a new song that's coming out soon, and by the time this is out, it may already be out. But part of that is everything I do. Let me back up. Everything I've ever done in music, I always try to figure out how to say something important with it, or bring out an emotion that I think it's healthy for people to have. You know, like sometimes I sing a song that may be sad or about a sad story, but I feel like there's a lot of people out there who will bottle up their feelings and not let those feelings be exposed, and I don't think that's healthy. So sometimes I want to record a song that forces that person to like break into tears and have that moment, you know, and then another time where it makes them feel validated, you know, record and do a song that makes someone feel validated and appreciated. And those songs that just make people laugh and have fun, because we all need to have those moments too. So everything I've done and everything I'm sure moving forward, there will always be some type of internal motivation on my part to bring out a feeling or an emotion in someone that I think will be helpful to them.
Yeah. Kind of going off that, I remember watching one of your videos. I think it was literally titled like, "I Have Something to Say."
Yep.
That's the title.
That was part of the One Day project.
Yeah. So when I was scrolling, I saw the video, and it was like 8 minutes long or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was somewhat longer, and I think I was getting ready to go somewhere, so I was like, "Oh, I'll save this for my watch later." And I started watching a couple, like a little bit of it. It was so well done that I ended up watching the whole thing all the way through. So you like, I think that video, it like sucked people in, or has the potential to.
Yeah.
Like when somebody's watching it.
I love hearing you say that. When I finished doing that and sent it to marketing team, they said, "There's no way people are going to watch this on social media, because I wanted to put it on social media and let people watch it. And they said, people aren't going to watch this. It's way too long. We've got to cut it down. And I was like, we can't cut it down. Like everything I say, there's importance in everything that I say. They've got to see the whole thing.
Yeah.
So they were like, okay, well, we'll do it. Well, then we started running ads for it. So it would show up for people. And we started getting these reports back that 70% of the viewers were watching 75% or more of the video. And they were shocked. They're like, we can't believe people who are used to watching something that's 30 seconds and then swiping on to the next thing are stopping and watching something that's 8 minutes long.
Yeah, that's insane, that retention rate. But the content you produced warrants it. So
thank you.
Yeah.
That was a mixture of all the things that I've just been wanting to say for so long, and part of my wishes for how the world would progress and transform into something that I felt like would benefit everyone.
Yeah, well, I think you made it timeless too, so you can share it at any point in time, and it's still relevant to what people might be feeling or experiencing. So that was another thing. It didn't seem like it was meant for any specific point in time. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but
it was. I mean, we did word it in a way that would be timeless, and it should be, because all of those things are, wishes that I'm sure 10 years from now, there's going to be things in there we still wish people would do, or how people would act. But I was asked to do a speech for the International Day of Living Together in Peace, which is done by the United Nations. And I wrote that speech for that purpose, which happens once a year in May. And I wrapped that whole speech around the release of the song One Day for it. So it was designated for at that moment in time, but I agree that it's something that will be timeless, that years from now will be taking place and it will be relevant to something going on in the world.
Yeah, it was very impactful, to say the least. So I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Well, let's see. Do you have anything else, like music related? Anything else you want to add to the conversation there?
I would just say that we've got lots of new stuff that's coming out, and a really fun music video that's coming out for new music that I think people will really get excited about. So I just encourage people watching to go give it a listen and watch the video, and then find me on social media and tell me, comment what you think about it. I love to hear people's comments and their feedback, whether it's good or bad.
The feedback, the engagement, isn't it just exciting?
Yes.
Like, yeah, that's my favorite part.
Yeah, I love seeing people get involved.
Yeah.
And have healthy debates about things.
Definitely. It's fun.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited.
That's why reality TV does so well. People like watching that interaction between people.
Gosh, I wish I could be on a reality TV show. I don't know what show, but it sounds like it'd be fun to do. Maybe host one someday. So
host one.
Bucket list. Bucket list.
That's right. Put it on your dream board.
Yep. Do you have any other passions besides music? Because I was like, drilling into passions too.
Yeah,
What do you do for fun outside of music?
I'm a private pilot.
Interesting.
Got my
you
pilot
like flying?
license. I love flying. It's that moment where you get to leave Earth. That's how it feels to me. Like you leave Earth and you leave all your troubles, stresses, and worries down on the ground, and you're up, above or in the clouds, and it's just one of the most peaceful things for me to do. And I got my license back in 2005, and being a pilot in airplanes, it was all like something I loved when I was a kid and always wanted to do. So I got my license and thought too, like if music never worked out, I'll just be a pilot because I love doing that too. But I do it now for fun.
That's awesome though. I'm not too well versed on aviation, but I follow it a little bit. What do you fly?
a Cirrus SR22. Cirrus is a fairly new concept plane. It was came out back in I think 2005 or six is when it finally launched. But
Mm.
it's the only single engine airplane that has a built-in parachute. So
Oh,
if something were to go wrong, you can shoot a parachute and it'll
right.
just set the whole airplane down.
So not. Oh, and I guess yeah, you meant the parachute for the airplane, not for you.
Right, not for you. Yeah, you just sit in your seat and let it carry you to the ground. Never had to use that, thank goodness.
I was just about to ask, but I assumed the answer was no.
Yeah, hope I never have to.
I found a picture. Yeah, I feel like I've seen pictures of these before, but they look similar to a lot of other planes. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
they're fun.
um,
You should go fly in one.
huh?
I said you should go fly in one if you're not scared of heights or
Oh,
flying.
no,
Yeah,
I am not afraid of heights. I enjoy flying when I can. I'm not a private pilot though.
add that to your bucket list.
I know. At one point, I would like to get a pilot's license. It seems like a bucket list thing to do, but
Yeah, for sure.
uh, someday,
Someday,
one
one
day. um, so do you fly like just around your area, or do you take like little trips, or like where do you go?
Uh, both, both.
Yeah.
If when I'm really busy, I'll usually just take it up and fly around
Mhm.
town, or I'll fly to a very close neighboring town. And what we call, as pilots, we call it the $100 hamburger because we'll spend $100 in fuel just to fly
Yeah.
over to the other town and eat lunch, and then fly back just for a reason to go flying. But if I have a few days, I have taken it and flown down to Panama City Beach and spent the
Oh,
weekend, and then fly back home.
yeah, that's nice.
Those opportunities are rare, but I during the pandemic, I kept saying, man, this is the perfect opportunity because I always wanted to do a complete cross country trip where I just hopped around from one city to the next and traveled the whole country. But I was like, what am I going to do when I get there? Everything's closed. I couldn't go eat, couldn't
That's
stay in a
true.
hotel. Like
Yeah.
there was just absolutely nothing to do. So it's like, well, I guess I won't do it. But that would have been the perfect opportunity for me because I had all the time in the world.
Yeah, that would. Oh, that. I feel like that would have been fun though. Just
Yeah.
hopping airports. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you would have had the time too, right? At least at the beginning of the
Yeah,
pandemic.
I mean, the first half of it, I had literally nothing going on. So,
But the first half of the pandemic was when everything was closed before they
right.
started
Yeah, you
reopening.
couldn't even find hotels or car rentals, or
No,
there was
nothing.
nothing. So, it would have
Someday
been, I guess I could have taken a tent and just slept in a tent along the way when we
you could have.
stopped in places. Could have done that, I guess.
Yeah. Probably can't sleep in the plane.
No, it's pretty tight quarters.
Yeah. That's fun though. How long did it take you to get the pilot's license? I don't
Six
know what the
months.
process is really like, but it seems like it's more difficult than getting like a driver's license or something like that, right?
Yeah, it is. It's another one of those things that when you start doing it, you think, I'm never going to learn all of this. Like, you
Mhm.
want me to fly this plane, you want me to operate the controls, and you want me to talk to air traffic control and listen to all their instructions. Like, it's so much multitasking, and you think you're never going to figure out how to do all of that. And then it's another, it clicks one day, and you're like, oh, okay, this is not so hard anymore. But it took me about 6 months. You have to get 40 flight hours before you're qualified to test with the FAA.
So
And
you,
I ended up doing mine in 42 hours. I had 42 hours when I finally went to test and got my license.
that's
So it
actually
depends on how much time you have to go fly. Some people can only fit in 1 or 2 hours a week at most. So then it takes them a little longer to
yeah.
get
If you're
done that.
one hour a week, that's almost a
Yeah,
year. So
almost a year. Yeah. And then sometimes, weather happens and you can't go because the weather's nasty. So you may end up going 2 or 3 weeks before you find a day
oh
that's good
yeah.
weather and you're free.
Oh, because yeah, if you're just starting out, can't you only fly when the weather is good? what is it? The VFR versus
VFR,
IFR
visual
stuff?
flight goals.
I'm surprised I remember that.
Yeah, so you have to be able to see the ground and see so far out in
Yeah.
front of you, and see the things that are around you. And if you can't, then you can't fly.
Yeah, so if you live in an area like Michigan where it's been cloudy for like, I don't know, weeks now, I feel like that wouldn't bode well for
Yeah,
people
it could
who want
be
a lot
it
of
could
free
be
time.
challenging to get your hours in.
Definitely. So that means I just need to make more free time. Is that what you're telling me?
Yep. You have to make time for yourself to do things that you really love to do, and that's separate from work. Even if you love work,
That
you gotta
is
take time
true.
for that.
That goes for everybody.
Yeah,
Everybody
for
needs
sure.
their free time. So, well, I guess where can people find you? So this is your chance to plug all of your social handles, everything.
Sure.
Yeah.
So if you go to my website, which is curtisbrawley.com, and last name is Brally, there's links there to all my social media. And as well, if you find me on Instagram at Curtis Brawley, there's a link in my bio that will take you to buttons for anything and everything that you want to check out regarding me and my career.
Awesome. Well, everybody needs to go check it out.
Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode and want to learn more, make sure you guys check out that link in the description. It's going to have everything you could possibly need. Check out the social medias. If you guys have any questions, reach out to us. Make sure you give this video a like, comment, subscribe, share with all your friends, leave a nice review on Apple Podcasts, all of the YouTube stuff. It really, really helps us out. Again, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time.